Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 340 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about starting pitcher Blake Snell signing with the LA Dodgers. Blake Snell becomes the first major free agent to sign with the team this baseball offseason. The two-time Cy Young Award winner has signed with the LA Dodgers on a 5-year, $182 million deal. This is a big reversal from last year where he was one of the last players to sign, and Snell has a history with his new team as he was infamously taken out of the sixth inning in Game 6 of the World Series in 2020 against the Dodgers when Snell was a member of the Rays. This is now the third NL West team for Snell in the last 3 seasons. From 2022 to 2023, he was a member of the San Diego Padres, and last year he played for the San Francisco Giants. Snell is a big name because he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He won 21 games in 2018 and 14 games in 2023, while also having the lowest ERA. The only other starting pitchers to win the award twice since 2014 are Max Scherzer, Corey Kluber, Justin Verlander, and Jacob deGrom. But the odd thing about Blake Snell is, outside of those 2 seasons, he's never won double-digit games or made 30 starts. So he's not the most consistent. And I know in today's era we don't love to focus on wins, losses when it comes to starting pitchers, but on a consistent basis, if you're one of the very best pitchers in baseball, you should at the very least be winning 10 games a season. I get it, it's no longer the end-all be-all, but it has to matter somewhat, and Snell has not measured up against some of the other great pitchers of this era when it comes to winning meaningful baseball games. He's won 2 Cy Young Awards, but outside of those seasons, he hasn't been all that special. The other knock against Blake Snell is he walks a lot of batters. I mean, he led the league with 99 of them in 2023. With the Dodgers, obviously Blake Snell is going to be given an opportunity to get a lot more wins on his record because that team is stacked offensively. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, those are 3 former MVP award winners in the middle of that lineup. Who knows what that lineup is going to look like by the end of the offseason? The Dodgers' glaring need for starting pitching was obvious. They had to upgrade their pitching staff due to the fact that they had very little sure things. Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler are free agents. Clayton Kershaw is recovering from injury. And we can talk all we want about Shohei Ohtani pitching next season, but I'll believe it when I see it. Right now on paper, you have Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, Bobby Miller, and Blake Snell. That's really good, but those pitchers have had some consistency issues and some health problems as well. Of those 4 pitchers I just mentioned, I only believe in one of them becoming a clear ace, and that's Tyler Glasnow. I think that's what the Dodgers need. They need him to be their number 1 starting pitcher because he's the guy capable of being that, and I want to see him have a fully healthy season. I think he's the best pitcher on the Dodgers staff. With every big move the Dodgers make, the backlash towards the team grows and grows because they are the one team that acts like they have unlimited resources. There's still a possibility they end up with outfielder Juan Soto. Also, many baseball fans hate the fact that they are giving players contracts with deferred money. What that means is they pay them further down the line. The real question is the Dodgers' advantages going to get so out of control that the sport is going to be forced to make changes? And what exactly would those changes end up being? And I get if you're a fan of another team being jealous of what the Dodgers are doing. I was not jealous that the Dodgers ended up with Blake Snell because I don't believe he's the best pitcher on the market. So this is either a case of the Dodgers just being so in love with Blake Snell that they had to have him, and that's possible. I mean, Andrew Friedman does have ties with the Tampa Bay Rays back when they had Blake Snell, so maybe he loved Blake Snell the same way he loved Tyler Glasnow, and that's why all these former Rays pitchers are on the Dodgers now. Or the Dodgers thought that Corbin Burnes and Max Fried wanted too much money and didn't want in on them. My sense is, and I don't know if this is correct, that Corbin Burnes is going to get a lot more money than Blake Snell. He's probably going to get a way longer deal as well. Like, I think Corbin Burnes could get an 8-year deal from a legitimate baseball team. Max Fried is the one I'm interested in, though. What kind of money is Max Fried going to get? Is he going to get a 5-year deal, or is he going to be able to get a 7-year contract from someone? The teams that lose out on Juan Soto. Because that's what I think those two pitchers are waiting for. They are waiting to see which teams lose out on Juan Soto and are going to end up giving them more money than they would have before. And I think the reason that Blake Snell didn't wait is because of what happened to Blake Snell last offseason. He waited and then ended up getting a deal that did not work out for him in the end. So in this case, it makes total sense why Blake Snell was the first big free agent off the board. My hope is, and we all hope this to be the fact, that Snell signing this early is a big sign of things to come, that all of these big free agents are going to sign soon. The other interesting element in Blake Snell signing this early is his agent is Scott Boras, who had a rough offseason to say the least last year, waiting for the best deal. And I wonder if this is Scott Boras righting a wrong, or is this Blake Snell taking control of his own career and saying, I want to sign right now? Snell probably desperately wanted to pitch a full baseball season, have a full spring training. I want to get back to the Dodgers because the feeling around them is that the Dodgers get all the best players, but I don't necessarily get that feeling from them getting Blake Snell, who is a very good pitcher who sometimes has great seasons. He's not a classic ace. I know, who is nowadays? But I also don't think he's a top 5 pitcher in the game and possibly even in the top 10. The clear ace I want my team is Corbin Burnes because you know what you are going to get out of him every year. I like guys like Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees and Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies who take the ball every 5th day, and at the end of the day, they consistently win games. And historically, that has not been Blake Snell. He has not been that, and asking him to become that at 31 is a big ask. 5 years isn't a huge commitment, but out of those 5 years, how many years is Snell going to pitch like his Cy Young seasons? If you want to talk about how the Dodgers are paying anyone, what you should be talking about is them signing infielder Tommy Edman, who was NLCS MVP, to a 5-year, $74 million deal. And it is possible that no other team would pay him that much. But the Dodgers see the value in him, and they are getting a lot of credit for paying this player that kind of money. I mean, the media loves the Dodgers. They are acting like the Dodgers are not only spending a boatload of money, but are also geniuses with the team that they're putting together. The media loves the Dodgers while fans of the sport are getting irritated by the advantages that the franchise clearly has. I mean, this unlimited amount of money to sign whoever you want and then to give an infielder like Tommy Edman, who hit .237 last year, by the way, $74 million without blinking an eye. Yes, on one hand, they're the model franchise and more teams should act like them, but I also think it's impossible to ask other teams to act like them because the other teams cannot roll out this kind of money. They can't give a middle infielder who's average at best $74 million. If the Dodgers end up becoming a dynasty, they could probably be deemed as the first dynasty that was built on big free agent and trades. Like, I look at the other dynasties historically, and they're built upon homegrown talent. I mean, you look at the Yankees in the 90s, I bring it up all the time. They had Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, Bernie Williams, the list goes on. Jorge Posada. They developed that talent. The Dodgers right now are built on Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, add Blake Snell to the list. Clayton Kershaw is really the only face of the Dodgers who was homegrown. Maybe you could argue their catcher Will Smith, but they're not developing a lot of young talent around that core right now. Their best players are players they've gotten outside of the organization. I don't know if at any point that's going to come back to haunt the Dodgers. I don't know if they're still developing young talent. Maybe as the years go by, they're going to surround the Mookie Bettses with homegrown talent, and they're going to be able to continue this stellar run. The big question I think people are asking right now, are the Dodgers good for baseball? And I don't know the answer to that. I think it was entertaining last year to see Shohei Ohtani hit 50 homers and steal 50 bases, and it was also very good that one of the best players in the sport finally got to see postseason baseball in the prime of his career. I mean, he was able to escape the Angels and get to a contender and prove himself to be a missing piece of a World Series winning team. But I do think that fans would lose their minds if the Dodgers end up with Juan Soto, because then it becomes a case of, when does this end? When does this end? I mean, you can't end up with every big free agent, because then it becomes boring. I mean, you want to see as many good players on as many different teams. I'm a fan of the Boston Red Sox. I don't want all the great players on the Boston Red Sox. I want the Boston Red Sox to be a dominant team, but I want the other teams to be good as well, because that makes the sport more viable the more teams there are competing. I think what's scary about the Dodgers for so many people is all of their moves are paying off. I mean, they pay Freddie Freeman. He becomes a World Series MVP once again. They go off and get Shohei Ohtani. He has a 50-50 season. I mean, all of these big moves are paying off. I mean, we're used to these big spenders at some point paying the price for their spending. I mean, I think a lot of people enjoyed what happened to the New York Mets a couple seasons ago when they had Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. I think a lot of people like the fact that the team that spent all the money, it didn't work out for them. They enjoyed watching the Mets downfall because they're not rooting for the team that spends the most money. Baseball fans probably laughed when it didn't work out for the Red Sox with Adrian Gonzalez or Carl Crawford or Hanley Ramirez and Pablo Sandoval. I mean, we used to be able to say the team that won the offseason doesn't always win the regular season or the postseason, but the Dodgers are drastically changing that narrative, and I think it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. And it's making it harder for the teams behind them to keep pace. I mean, the Padres for years and years were trying to. Remember, the San Diego Padres at one point had Juan Soto and traded him away. That's how wild this thing is. And now all of these teams are all in on Juan Soto, a player the Padres possibly could have kept if they didn't trade him away. What's crazy is the Dodgers were not always viewed as the Goliath they are today. In fact, one of their teams that went on to win the World Series in 1988 is by many people's standards one of the least talented rosters to do so. The mythic tale is a hobbling Kirk Gibson took down a star-studded Oakland A's team that had the likes of Dennis Eckersley, Mark McGwire, and Jose Canseco on it. That team was the little engine that could, led by legendary manager Tommy Lasorda. They were underdogs. Also, that postseason, they took down the New York Mets, led by Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry. I mean, they were beating teams that had the star players, and they just had one star and a bunch of role players. It's also worth noting they also had should-be Hall of Fame pitcher Oral Hershiser. My point is the Dodgers are now on the other end of the spectrum and are likely never heading back. I mean, they are going to continue to spend money. I mean, this ownership with the likes of Magic Johnson are going to continue to pay the highest prices for the best players in the sport. And man, the only people enjoying it are Dodger fans. I just find it interesting that this is the move that's getting the strong reaction. Oh, we can't let the Dodgers get Blake Snell. I like Blake Snell. I just felt that way when the Dodgers walked away with Mookie Betts, a generational talent. When the Dodgers walked away with Shohei Ohtani, a free agent that everyone wanted. I didn't have this feeling towards Blake Snell that seemingly everyone else has. I think he's a good pitcher. I think he's a bigger name because he's won 2 Cy Young Awards. But look at those other seasons that Blake Snell has pitched in the league. He's kind of just another pitcher during those seasons. Now, unless you believe that Blake Snell is going to be the Cy Young Award winning Blake Snell all 5 seasons, I don't think this is that big of a deal. And I'm a little surprised that Corbin Burnes was not the main target of the LA Dodgers. He's the better pitcher. He is a better, more consistent pitcher than Blake Snell. He himself has also won the Cy Young Award. He was great last season for Baltimore. I don't think the money is insane for Blake Snell. I think the years are reasonable. A 5-year contract makes a lot of sense. I'm just a little surprised that he was the first big name off the board because I'm not really all that excited about Blake Snell. And maybe my opinion's going to change on him, but right now that's my viewpoint on Blake Snell. He is a very good starting pitcher who lacks a certain quality I want in a number 1 pitcher. A pitcher who takes the ball every 5th day and win more than you lose. I mean, for me to consider you an ace, I keep going back to it, but you gotta win 10 games for me to view you as an ace. 10 games a season. I mean, that's the bare minimum. We can talk all we want about how wins and losses don't matter, but come on, you gotta win 10 games. It's not that big of an ask. I also don't think Blake Snell is a number 1 guy, like the top ace pitcher of your pitching staff. I like him more as a number 2 or even number 3 pitcher on a staff that I think could contend for a World Series championship. I do not think the Dodgers are going to win next season with Blake Snell as their best pitcher. I think if they're going to repeat, it's going to be because they have Tyler Glass now. It makes sense that the Dodgers made this move. They needed a starting pitcher. I'm just surprised it's Blake Snell who they went after and not Corbin Burnes and not Max Fried. Maybe they're going to be in on those guys as well, but Snell is the one they landed, and for now, I'm a bit surprised by that move. I'm also just really interested to see what kind of money Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler get, because could you make the argument that if Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler combined make less than $181 million, it would be a better investment to bring those 2 pitchers back than to sign one Blake Snell? I mean, that's going to be interesting to see, and I'm going to be curious to see if those 2 combined make less money than Blake Snell, because then I might seriously start to question the LA Dodgers. Another pitcher that's on the free agent market that a team like the Dodgers should definitely be in on is Nathan Eovaldi, because Nathan Eovaldi is a big game pitcher. That's the kind of guy you can get on a short-term deal, give the ball in Game 7 of the World Series and go, win me this ball game, and you're going to have a great chance to do so. Because that's really where you're at with the Dodgers. They need pitching for the postseason. The Dodgers are going to walk into the playoffs automatically. They're a stacked roster. For 162 games, they're going to easily win somewhere between 95 and 100. It's about getting those pitchers who can pitch in the big games. Walker Buehler proved last year and in 2020 that he's a big game pitcher. Nathan Eovaldi throughout his career with the Red Sox, against the Dodgers, and with the Texas Rangers proved that he was a big game pitcher. That's what the Dodgers need, and I don't know if Blake Snell's that guy. At the end of the day, acquiring Blake Snell just does not get me excited. Like, if my baseball team, the Boston Red Sox, all they did this offseason was get Blake Snell, that would not get me super excited. Now, in the case of the Dodgers, it's different because they're coming off of a World Series victory. Them doing any big move is a big get, because I think to repeat, you need to make moves like get a Blake Snell, and I get it. It could really end up working out for them, because Blake Snell is a really good pitcher. I think he's going to win more games as a member of the Dodgers. He's now pitched in that division each of the last 3 years. He's going to be comfortable in it. He's now going to have a full spring training. We could possibly see the best version ever of Blake Snell next year for the LA Dodgers. I think this move makes sense for the Dodgers more so than it does other teams. Like, if the Colorado Rockies were giving that kind of money out to Blake Snell to be their ace, we would all look at it as a disaster. Like, it would not work out. Him being an ace for Colorado would not work out. But him being with the Dodgers, a team that's going to win a lot of ball games, that's going to go deep into October, this could be a perfect fit. It's just the up and down nature of his career has me questioning giving Blake Snell this kind of years and that kind of money. But I understand in modern times, that's the kind of money you have to pay these top-tier pitchers. And if you're the Dodgers, you really don't care about the money anyway because you're paying literally everyone. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please rate, review, and subscribe.